He's not our hero. He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight. These iconic words, spoken by Commissioner Gordon at the end of The Dark Knight 2008, perfectly encapsulate the essence of Christopher Nolan's groundbreaking take on Batman. But they signify far more than just a dramatic closing line. They redefine what it means to be a hero. Unlike traditional superheroes who bask in the admiration of the public, Batman operates in the shadows, bearing the weight of Gotham's sins so that its people can believe in a brighter future. He is a symbol rather than a man, a legend rather than a celebrity. What sets The Dark Knight apart from other superhero films is its refusal to settle for simple morality. This isn't just a story about good versus evil. It's a psychological and philosophical exploration of chaos, order, and the sacrifices required to maintain the fragile balance between them. Batman doesn't just fight criminals. He battles the very nature of humanity, facing villains who don't seek power or wealth but aim to prove that society is just one bad day away from collapse. At its core, The Dark Knight is a tragedy disguised as a blockbuster. Bruce Wayne isn't a flawless savior. He's a man forced to make impossible choices, bearing the burden of his own code in a world that constantly tests it. The film blurs the line between justice and vengeance, heroism and vigilantism, asking whether the ends truly justify the means. And in the end, Batman's greatest act of heroism isn't a physical victory. It's accepting the role of the villain so that Gotham can keep its faith in something better. This is why The Dark Knight remains one of the greatest films ever made, not just within the superhero genre, but in cinema as a whole. It challenges us to question what heroism really looks like, and whether true justice can ever be pure, or if it must always exist in the shadows. Gotham City is a festering wound, rotting from the inside out. Corruption runs deeper than the subway tunnels, seeping into every institution: courts, cops, city hall, all bought and sold by the highest bidder. Trust is a luxury no one can afford. In a city this broken, justice doesn't come from grand speeches or gleaming symbols. It comes from the darkness, where the real monsters dwell. Enter the Batman. He isn't here to inspire. He isn't here to reassure. He's a storm in the shape of a man, striking fear into the hearts of those who prey on the weak. No flashy costume, no slogans, just the relentless crack of bone against bone, the whisper of a cape vanishing into the night. While others play politics, he wages war. Commissioner Gordon was one of the few who saw the truth early. Gotham didn't need a hero in the traditional sense. It needed something sharper, something darker. A scalpel to cut out the infection, not a bandage to cover it. Batman became that instrument, unyielding, brutal when he had to be, but never crossing that final line. Because no matter how far Gotham falls, he refuses to sink with it. His rule is absolute. He will break criminals, but he will not become one. And in a city where the law is a joke, that thin, unwavering line is the only thing separating justice from vengeance. Bruce Wayne had always known that Batman was more than just a vigilante seeking justice. He was a symbol, a force greater than any one man. But what did that symbol truly represent? Harvey Dent, Gotham's shining white knight, embodied the ideals of the legal system, a beacon of hope who fought for order within the bounds of the law. Batman, on the other hand, existed in the shadows, a silent, relentless force designed to strike fear into the hearts of criminals. He wasn't meant to be admired or embraced. His purpose was far darker. The Dark Knight was Gotham's shield, the one who endured the pain, the hatred, and the moral compromises that others couldn't. While men like Dent and Commissioner Gordon upheld justice with clean hands, Batman walked the razor's edge, crossing lines they never could. This duality was the core of his existence, the necessary darkness that allowed Gotham's light to shine. Bruce longed to hang up the cowl, to let Harvey Dent carry the city's hope and prove that the system could work. But in his heart, he understood the grim truth. Some burdens were his alone to bear. No matter how much he wished otherwise, Gotham would always need Batman, not as a hero, but as the darkness that kept its monsters at bay. The Joker emerges as a villain unlike any other, a self-proclaimed agent of chaos, with no grand scheme, at least not in the traditional sense. He doesn't seek wealth, control, or even revenge. His motives are far more twisted. His true desire is to unravel the fragile order of Gotham, to expose the darkness he believes lurks beneath every facade of decency. With calculated cruelty, He sets out to break the city's spirit, targeting its symbols of hope. His masterstroke? Corrupting Harvey Dent, Gotham's shining white knight, and pushing Batman to the edge of his moral code. In one devastating move, the Joker forces Bruce Wayne to make an impossible choice: save Rachel, the love of his life, or Harvey, the city's future. But the Joker lies, and Rachel's death sends Harvey spiraling into madness. In the end, the Joker doesn't defeat Batman in battle. He wins by tarnishing the very ideals Batman fights for. Gotham's faith is shattered, Harvey becomes Two-Face, and Batman is left grappling with the cost of his failure. The Joker's victory isn't measured in bloodshed but in corruption, proving that even the best of men can fall. In the film's climactic moments, Harvey Dent, once Gotham's shining symbol of justice, succumbs to the very chaos the Joker sought to unleash. Consumed by grief and rage after losing everything, he abandons his ideals and becomes the very thing he fought against: a murderer. Batman intervenes, stopping Harvey before he can take another life. But the victory comes at a devastating price. Dent was more than a district attorney. He was Gotham's hope, a beacon of lawful justice in a city drowning in corruption. If the truth of his fall were revealed, the city's faith in justice would crumble, leaving only despair in its wake. Recognizing this, Batman makes an impossible choice. He sacrifices his own reputation to preserve Harvey's legacy. He takes the blame for Dent's crimes, transforming himself into the villain Gotham can unite against. "You'll hunt me, condemn me, but that's what needs to happen," Bruce explains, accepting the burden of hatred to protect the city's fragile hope. In that moment, he proves the difference between a conventional hero and the Dark Knight. A true hero doesn't just save lives. He endures the darkness so others can keep believing in the light. His sacrifice isn't just about justice. It's about giving Gotham something to hold on to, even if it means becoming the enemy they fear. And so, Batman disappears into the night, a ghost, a myth, a whispered name among the shadows of Gotham. The city wakes to chaos, believing their fallen hero, Harvey Dent, was murdered by the very symbol they once clung to for hope. The lie spreads, a necessary deception to preserve Dent's legacy and the fragile peace he died for. But Commissioner Gordon, standing in the rain with the weight of the truth heavy on his shoulders, knows what must be done. Kneeling before his son, his voice is steady but weary as he speaks the words that will define Gotham's fate, because he's the hero Gotham deserves, but not the one it needs right now. So we'll hunt him, because he can take it. At that moment, Batman ceases to be a man. He becomes something greater, an idea, a legend forged in sacrifice. He is not celebrated in the light, nor thanked by the people he protects. Instead, he lingers in the darkness, a silent guardian bearing the sins of a city too broken to face its own truth. This is the burden he chooses, the price of true justice in a world that demands heroes but destroys them just the same. And that is the essence of The Dark Knight, a story not of triumph, but of necessity. It strips away the glamour of heroism, leaving only the raw, unyielding will to endure. Batman is not loved. He is not worshipped, but he is needed, a shadow against the storm, standing where others cannot. This is what sets his tale apart, not the battles he wins, but the weight he carries, unseen and unthanked, for the sake of a city that may never understand. Batman doesn't save Gotham by basking in the light or seeking its admiration. He doesn't stand as a beacon of hope in the traditional sense. Instead, he becomes something far more powerful, its darkest myth, a shadow that looms over the wicked and the corrupt. The line between hero and vigilante is razor-thin, a boundary defined by perspective, morality, and the law. Yet Bruce Wayne walks that precarious edge every single night, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. He doesn't wear the cape and cowl for glory, for applause, or for recognition. He does it because Gotham is broken, and someone must rise to mend it, not with gentle hands, but with unyielding resolve. In a city drowning in chaos, he is the storm that answers the cries of the innocent, the relentless force that ensures evil never rests easy. And though the world may never truly understand him, Gotham doesn't need a savior who shines, it needs one who endures. In Batman, he's a silent guardian, a watchful protector.
The Dark Knight.